Alright, hello class. Thank you for taking this course. I hope you learn a lot of good things about yourself in this course. This is about you, by the way. Psychology is all about you. Alright, so here we go. Psychologists at work define the science of psychology, subfields, and major specialties for working in the field. Okay, the scientific process. Psychology is the science. We strive to be a science. Not all of it is scientific, but we do like to use the scientific method whenever we can. Alright? So we like to describe, predict, explain behavior of mental and mental processing. This is what makes psychology a science. These are the same goals as other sciences. Describe, predict, explain, and control. Okay. Subfields, we have behavioral science, experimental psychology, developmental psychology, physical and mental health, focus on those around us, social networks, newer areas of study. So there are many different areas in psychology that you can get into. Sorry about that. And so there's not just one thing. Psychology is a very broad field because there's just not one thing that makes you who you are as an individual. About 300,000 psychologists in the United States. It's about 50-50. But women are starting to overcome men in psychology. 6% from racial minority groups, a lot of doctors, a lot of PsyDs. Psychologists are different from psychiatrists. Psychiatrists are medical doctors. They go to med school. They can prescribe medication, and they're more likely just to give you medication than any type of talk therapy or psychotherapy. The psychologists would rely on psychotherapy or talk therapy or other types of therapy techniques other than medication alone. Explain the roots of psychology, where it's come from, applying psychology to your life, because again, psychology is about you. Alright. Sorry I have to go through this kind of quick. Wilhelm Wundt is the father of psychology. The moment that we took a human being, put him in a lab to measure what it means to be a person, that is the day that psychology was born. Okay? And psychology is still a relatively new science from 1879. That's another reason why psychology is having a difficult time being accepted by other sciences. Don't let anybody fool you. Psychology is a science and not a pseudoscience. Alright? Originally, it started with structuralism. We talked about the structure of the mind, your sensations and perceptions and all those other things. And functionalism, which was discovered by William James, was talking about how our emotions respond to the environment that we're in. And today's perspectives, we have, neuroscience, psychodynamic, which is a Freudian aspect, behavioral, which is learning, cognitive, which is how our process, store, and use information, and humanistic, about reaching your full potential in life. And all of those we'll talk about throughout the semester. Psychology, once you understand psychology, you understand, terrorism, aggression, how unreliable eyewitness testimony is, how driving while using a cell phone is extremely dangerous, and how psychology is related to obesity. Everything about your life, every single minute detail about your life, some way, somehow, comes back to psychology. And so the better you understand psychology, the better you understand you as an individual and how you kind of understand your strengths and weaknesses and where you are in the world, understand other people better, get along with people better. So psychology is a fantastic course just to understand you as an individual and other people as well. Probably the big issue in psychology is nature-nurture. What makes you who you are? Is it because of genetics, the biology of you, or is it nurture? The good or the bad environment that you were raised in? Or is it a combination of both? Alright, most psychologists would say it's a combination of both. But there's some aspects that are completely biological. and not having very little to do with the environment. We also talk about conscious and unconscious causes of behavior. Why do we behave the way we do? We talk about observational behavior, watching other people, using the scientific method to do so, and free will. Is there such thing as free will? And determinism, okay? And individual differences compared to universal principles. Because I'm from here in Emporia, Kansas, am I different from, if I was raised somewhere else like New York City, would I be a different person? Most definitely, all right? But there's some things that are universal, like a smile is a smile everywhere you go on this planet. If you go in the middle of the Amazon jungle and find a tribe that has no idea the rest of us exist, if you smile to them, they'll know what that means, all right? For the most part, anyways. Where are we at, number 10? Alright, so we have research in psychology. You guys define the scientific method, list the steps, describe how psychologists use research, and summarize the descriptive research. Research is never fun to learn, but it's a very important thing to learn. Because a lot of our, in psychology, like I said, is a science, and we have to collect data. We have to be able to put things in operational definitions, so they put them in data format. Okay, when you measure happiness, you got to be able to put that in numbers, and you got to put that in data. You got to see if your independent variable made a difference. Okay. We do like to use the scientific method in psychology. We have to identify a question, formulate a hypothesis, carry out research, bring in the findings. All right. It's all about research. Okay, the scientific method is about research, and we love research in psychology. Research. Just type in psychology, and you'll find tons of research. There's archival research, naturalistic observation, going out and just observing people, and then survey research, asking them a bunch of questions. Granted, not all these are scientific. Surveys are not scientific. Alright, so because you have to rely on information from other people, and people generally, people do lie. People lie. We all lie. Even a 6-month-old baby lies. Alright? Sometimes a baby will cry. Mom will pick up different types of cries. A cry for hunger, crying for change my diaper, crying for hold me. Sometimes a baby will cry as if it's hungry when it just wants to be held. Alright, you little liar. Alright, so lying for humans is part of our evolution, is aided in the survival of our species. Now, what you lie about does make a difference. You can't lie about things that are potentially can get you in big trouble. But when someone says, do I look good in this? What do you say? Huh? Alright. Descriptive research is like case study, which is you study one particular individual for a long period of time. Now again, this is not scientific in the way that laboratory and stuff like that, but we learn a lot about that individual. The thing is though it's hard to generalize from that individual to the population. Just because you study one boy with ADHD for many different years, you learn a lot about that one boy. But can you really apply the findings to everyone else who has ADHD? We're all different. Just because we have the same disease or same disorder doesn't make us the same people. All right. Then we do correlational research, which we look for connections between 2 or 3 or 4 different things. There's positive correlation. Positive correlation means when one goes up, the other one goes up. Okay? Or it can mean if the other one goes down, the other one goes down. It's when both arrows point the same way. Okay? There is a high positive correlation between eating ice cream and drownings. That is the truth. Now, does that mean that eating ice cream will cause drownings? It does not. But there's something that connects both of them. And that is summer. Alright, we eat more ice cream in the summer. Then there's negative correlation where when one goes up, the other one goes down. Okay, the arrows don't match. And then there's no correlation, so there's no causation. There's no connection between the two. Okay? Correlation never equals causation. Never. Ever. Ever, 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 ever equals causation. Alright, the experimental method, you have the experimental group, the group that gets tested. You guys should know this, okay? In high school, grade school, control group gets the placebo or gets no treatment at all. So you treat both groups as equally as you possibly can. Then you have independent variable, which is what you are testing. It could be the pill. And then you have the dependent variable, which is the results of that test. You gotta hurry up, almost out of time. Alright. Research challenges. When it comes to human beings, you have to have informed consent. You have to tell them as much as you can about the experiment without giving away the experiment. Alright? And they have to sign off on it. And they can quit at any moment, at any time, for any reason, and not have to give you an explanation, and they do not ever get punished for it. Alright? People are always free to participate in your experiment or to not participate in your experiment. Animals in research, we have to be careful in the way we use animals. You know, psychology loves the rats, but we have to be careful, you know, about discomfort, illness, pain. But we do need to use animals in research. It's very important to use animals in research. You know, who wants to be the human guinea pig to try something new for the first time? You know, please try it on that rat before you try it on me. Okay. But then again, there's guidelines to using animal research, and there has to be a purpose, a scientific purpose, not just because you want to try it out. Right? We got to be learning something that we haven't learned before by using animals. And then avoiding experimental bias. We are all biased in one way or another. A good scientist knows that they are biased. They understand that they have biases. And so what they have to do is take steps to negate that bias as much as possible. Okay? So you have things called double-blind procedures where neither the experimenter or the participants know who's getting the independent variable. Okay. Also, we got placebos. Placebos are things that are not real but might cause something in effect. For example, when my son was little, he said he had a headache, and I looked in the medicine cabinet, and we didn't have any headache medicine. So what I did is I filled up a syringe full of coffee creamer, and I told my son that this is the most expensive medicine that Walmart sold, and this will get rid of his headache pretty quick. And he took the medicine. He took the creamer, that is, and guess what happens? His headache goes away. And that's called the placebo effect. Just the belief in a treatment can sometimes be enough to cause a medical, psychological effect to happen. It happens about 1/3 of the time. For the experimental method, when trying out new medicines, we have to give a placebo. If there's no difference between the placebo and the new medicine, well then the medicine made no difference at all, and it's not worthy. Okay? Or it needs further testing at any case. Alright? So that is the end of chapter 1. Thank you for listening.